Aputure makes some incredible video lights. However, I think this Aputure 60X may be the best one they've ever made. Hello, my name is Jonathan Palfrey and welcome back to my YouTube channel. As you may have noticed, I'm in a slightly different location than usual. I'm actually on location at the moment. I've been here 2 weeks, so I'm in my hotel room. So sorry if things look slightly different or lighting doesn't look quite good, because this is literally the first opportunity I've had a chance to stop and do some filming for the channel. So please like and subscribe as always, because I'll probably forget at the end. Today I wanted to talk to you about the Aputure 60X. It's really strange, there's not really been a lot of talk about this light since it was first announced. It was announced alongside, I think, the 600D, which of course, was a really big, impressive light. We actually bought one because it's perfect for sort of the interior shoots that we do. And I wanted to get the 60X as well as like an accent light, as something that you can use as effectively a dado replacement, something you can use as a spotlight, and with the X especially because you've got the tungsten and the daylight options. And it's been pretty quiet. There doesn't seem to be many reviews about this light. I think the Amaran lights that just came out, I think they sort of took a lot of the thunder away from it all, because suddenly you're having these amazing cheap lights, the Amaran 100 and 200 series, both incredible lights, and we've actually bought a couple of 100Xs. They are really good, and I'll tell you about comparison to this because there are some similarities, but there's also some major differences why you'd want to go for perhaps the 60X over those cheaper alternatives. So what makes this light so special? Well, first off, the build quality. This is a fully professional light, and it seems to be with every release that Aputure do, that the actual quality improves time and time again. We're certainly getting more metal housing than ever before. We're just getting more solid connections, more professional connections, and it's just one of those things that just keeps advancing as time goes on. This one is weather resistant, so if it's left out a bit in the rain, it should be fine. However, it's not 100% all great news, and there are a few things that slightly bugbear me that I think perhaps could have been done better, especially considering the price. So the first thing I'd probably look at is the weather sealing, and it's great, and of course the actual housing and everything is fully weather sealed, and that is absolutely awesome. However, we've got a cable connector here which is obviously weather sealed and it's a strong connection. That's great, but of course your battery or your power pack that you can also attach to the side here, that isn't going to be weather sealed. The D-tap certainly isn't weather sealed, so I'm a little bit unsure about where this would actually be a useful feature. I think it's a bit limited in terms of how well the weather sealing can work. And also, I'm not a big fan of having this cable coming out the back and then having the connector. Personally, I think it would have been better if they actually just had the plug inside the light. This feels like if anything is going to break on this light, it's going to be this connector. I think it's certainly the first thing that will go with the light, because everything else is really solid and really well made. You may have noticed that the barn doors have a little bit of rattle as you move them around. You can see as I move that around, they are pretty loose in here, and actually it's quite similar to the dados. They had the similar sort of issue. And you can sort of understand the dados because they get so hot you don't want to touch them too long, so I guess it was just an easy way of moving them around. And obviously you can adjust as you go around quite nice and easily, and cut the light and everything. However, because it is quite loose, if someone walks past, it is quite easy to knock, and that is something to be aware of if you're using this light, that you may have set up a certain pattern on the back or a slice of light across the background for an effect. Someone might walk past it and knock it out of place, and that could be quite annoying. Now, speaking of the barn doors, they are pretty well made and do a good job. You don't get a sharp slice of light like you perhaps would with a dado. I think if you're going to want that, you need to buy the projection mount that they are also releasing. That looks really awesome, but obviously it's another additional expense, and it's quite large and heavy as well. So it suddenly becomes quite a big item to carry around, especially if you wanted multiples of these, like you would perhaps with a dado set. That said, for general use, if you just want to kind of control the light to a certain degree, the barn doors do a fine job. And what's great, they're easy to remove by just removing the side thing here, and you can take it off like that. Not only that, once you've taken them off, they also include a Bowens mount adapter, which slots into the same piece really simply, and you can easily lock it down like so. And then you can attach all your Bowens mount adapters like your soft boxes and things, which is really useful because suddenly now you've got potentially a really portable solution for doing corporate interviews, for example. And this is where I kind of go start comparing it to the other Aputure lights and the other lights out there that you can purchase, and perhaps why you would choose this as not just an accent light or as a hair light, but maybe as a key light too. As I mentioned, you can run this off battery, and as I'm doing here, and it's really neatly set up with this V-lock on the side of the actual yoke. So if I take this off, you can see there's actually a V-lock mount right here on the side, and you just slot it straight in. The actual power adapter is similar as well. So you've got your power brick and they put it in this sort of metal housing. And inside there, it also has a V-lock so you can slot it on the side and keep it all neat and tidy. So that means, especially if you're using a battery like this, you've got a really neat, simple solution that is just so quick and easy to use. And I think for doing corporate interviews with a softbox on the front using the Bowens mount, this could be a really good option. Now, of course, this light isn't as powerful as a 120D. However, because of the projection lens inside, it does actually pack quite a good punch, and especially good considering it is bi-color. I would say if you're using anything up to the light dome, you can get a decent exposure in most normal lighting scenarios. So if you're going to most corporate interviews and the sort of distance you'd expect to put the light away just out of frame, you're going to get enough exposure out of that if you're in a general office, maybe not with direct sunlight coming in, but certainly if it's just ambient light or you've got office lighting that you can't turn off, having that bi-color is so handy. And personally, I would probably take it over a 120. Yes, the 120 does have a bit more punch, but it's not bi-color. And also, it's just a bit more of a pain to set up. Having to have that separate cable that connect the two parts together, having the control box separate as well. It's just all these different items you've got to put together. I find the control box doesn't hang very well on the light stand, especially if you've got a battery attached on the back. This is just such an easier and much better setup. You can easily pick it up, it's lightweight and easy to move. And I'd say if you had a couple of these, you could have using one as a key light with a softbox on, and then you could use another one as, say, the hair light. Now, how does it compare to the cheaper options such as the Amarans? It's roughly the same power as the 100X. You're going to be looking about the same once it goes through a softbox, to be honest. But obviously, the real shame with the Amarans is they don't have a real proper battery solution. Yes, you can buy a separate battery pack, but you're kind of going back down to that same issue again that the 120D has. Obviously, if you go for the 200, you're going to get a lot more power, but that's a slightly different light again, and the build quality of those isn't the same, anywhere near the same as these. That said, I think they are really great, and I would highly recommend them to people if you've just got a setup where you know you can plug into a wall. I think those solutions, they're so lightweight and small, and they pack a really good punch and simple to use that they're a really good option. I just think this is a more versatile option. It's more expensive, but it just can be used for way more different options than those other lights. So as I mentioned, it obviously has got that lens to be able to focus the light in. So as you can see, as I kind of go wide, you can go pretty wide with this and actually cover quite a large area. And then you can go relatively tight if you really need to punch that beam in on one thing. As I mentioned before, the slicing of the light using the barn doors is a bit of hit or miss. It's not incredible, but it'll do a good enough job if you're just trying to control light from spilling too far in any directions. The power intensity, you can go anywhere from 1 to 100%, and it's a pretty good smooth sort of difference between the different levels. And let's say 100 does give you quite a punch. And of course with the white balance, you can go everywhere from 2700 Kelvin all the way up to 6,500 Kelvin. So you can go really quite warm and really quite blue. As with all Aputure lights, it of course has the things like the wireless control through your phone, and it has got all the different effects like you see on all the Aputures nowadays, such as the fire, the paparazzi, the TV effect, all those kind of things. They work great. They're clever because of the X and the different colors you can do. It will mix them together to get different effects. We used it the other day to actually recreate a fire effect in one of our shots, and it actually worked really well. Now, I'm not going to go through all the charts and how accurate the color is and how bright the light is, with measurements, because to be honest, there's other people out there that will do a much better job than me. And to be honest, I think certainly with color, we're at a point now where all these lights are producing such good, accurate color across the range that I don't think it's really a big worry. I think for the 90% of people, the color accuracy of this light is more than good enough. Your color grading will probably be more of an issue than actually how good this light is accurate in terms of color. You can certainly really dial it in exactly how you want it. And Considering these are pretty much the replacement for the 20Ds that they brought out years ago, and I bought a set of those and they were bad. They were made of plastic, they were smaller, which was great, but the build quality was pretty poor. The setup in terms of the battery system was pretty poor, didn't really give enough power, and the color was so off that they even gave you little filters to try and correct them, but it was way off to the point where I just felt you couldn't really use it, except for the bicolor one, which was all right, but then it was really hardly any power. Effectively, it was like a 10-watt light, fine for maybe a tiny bit of a kicker at the back, but nothing really beyond that. This is a much more versatile light now, and I'd say it could potentially be a really good one light option over even the other Aputure lights such as the 120 and the Amaran series. Of course, other brands do make similar lights, like you've got Nanlite, they've got their 60 as well, their 60B I think it's called. And I've seen one of those, it's much smaller and it's a much more compact light, which is awesome, but it is obviously just a Bowens mount effectively. So you're not getting kind of the focusing options that you get with this light. And also the battery solution is not bad, but it's still separate units and things you've got to attach to different parts. While this, having this V-lock mount on the yoke, it's just such a smart idea. And to be honest, don't understand why that's not standard on all lights now. If the fixture can have all the control within the light, then why not just have this sort of setup, because it's such a neat and simple solution. So I hope you have found this video useful. If you have, please like and subscribe as always, because it massively helps out the channel. I'm still out here for a few more weeks, so I'll be using this light way more. It's just been such a useful light on the shoot. It's been the light that I've been grabbing out of my bag more often than anything else. Even the amazing and powerful 600, this light is just such a versatile light that it can be used for so many different situations, and we've got lifestyle over the next few days, so I'm sure we'll be using it even more where perhaps we can't get access to power or we just want to add a bit of a background. This is going to be such a great light for all of that, and I can't wait to share more about it in the future. So if you have enjoyed this, please like and subscribe as always, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.